What is going on, guys? My name is Taylor Stuber, and I'm here to break down the 6-game NBA slate on Draftkings and PrizePicks.com. If you guys are new here, welcome. If you guys are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you guys entered yesterday's giveaway for $25 via Cash App or Venmo, I will announce that winner momentarily. If you guys want to enter tomorrow's giveaway, all you have to do is subscribe, like this video, and comment literally anything down below. I'm giving away cash every single day up until Christmas Day, so if you guys want to do that, make sure to do those things that I just instructed. But I will be live streaming at 5 p.m. Central Time, an hour before lock, to go over all of the latest breaking injury news, as well as answering as many questions as I possibly can in that time frame. If you guys want to know exactly what I'm playing on FanDuel, DraftKings, and PrizePicks.com, which we've been on an absolute heater, especially on FanDuel, you guys can join my Patreon. That is linked down below in the description. $25 a month. You get my full FanDuel lineup with that, and yeah, we've been absolutely murdering it over there. Could have been a lot bigger night. A couple things didn't fall our way, but still very, very profitable. But yeah, let's just jump right into this slate. So we had 87 eligible contestants yesterday for this giveaway. We'll see who wins here. Whoever wins, make sure to DM me over on Twitter, and I'll get you your money via Venmo or Cash App. Match 12K4. I appreciate the comment. Appreciate you, the viewership overall. Make sure to hit me up on Twitter, and I will get you your money. If you guys want to enter my Christmas Day giveaway, where I'm giving away a ton of cash and promotions on Christmas Day during that live stream, just come over to my Twitter account, follow me, and then like my pinned comment. Only 105 people have entered this contest, so you know I'm going to be giving away multiple things, so you're gonna have a lot of opportunities to win things, and only 105 people are eligible for that giveaway. But let's just jump into the first game of the slate. We currently have the Utah Jazz versus the Washington Wizards at 220.5 over under. The Jazz are currently 6.5 point favorites. The Jazz only have Rudy Gobert as questionable on their most recent injury report for personal reasons. He's probably not going to end up playing, in my opinion. Doesn't change all that much, maybe more minutes from Joe Ingles off the bench. But the Washington Wizards have been very, very good at defending the perimeter this year. They've been good defensively overall, but especially on the perimeter. But they are allowing the 5th most points in the paint. And Donovan Mitchell, he averages 14.3 drives per game, which is near the top of the league. So pretty good opportunity here if he's going to be getting to the basket, but a really, really big dream spot for Rudy Gobert at $8,800. So not only do they allow so many points in the paint, they are a very, very poor rebounding team, very poor against the pick and roll. So Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert should absolutely murder them in the pick and roll. Daniel Gafford, Montrezl Harrell are not the answers for Rudy Gobert here. There are a ton of centers on this slate that I like. Rudy Gobert is one of them, but probably not one that I'm getting to. And this game is kind of by itself with this 6 p.m. game, and then every other game starts at 7 and 7:30 p.m. Central Time. So you could definitely fade this game and wait for more injury news that will likely be waiting for after this game. But don't mind Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, really the only two guys that I'm interested in on the Utah Jazz side. The Wizards, they are going to be without Kyle Kuzma, which that injury news just came out. Rui Hachimura and Thomas Bryant. The Jazz have actually been better at defending the three than they have inside the paint this year. They're allowing 32.3 3-point percentage allowed this year, which is 3rd best in the league. So people are getting up tough 3-point shots up against the Utah Jazz, and actually the Utah Jazz have been getting beat up in the paint more so than the perimeter so far this year. I think Bradley Beal is in a very, very good spot. He averages 16.7 drives per game, which is the 8th most in the league. Now there's no Kyle Kuzma, so his usage rate should uptick even more. He has just been very, very inefficient so far this year, but the last couple of games things have really been coming around, and now without Kyle Kuzma, I think he'll be leaned on even more so here. Excuse me. So I like Bradley Beal a ton over here. If you guys are part of the Patreon, we ended up taking his over on PrizePicks as soon as Kyle Kuzma was ruled out. We got him at like 36 fantasy points, I believe. And so I love the over. It might have been 35 even. So we smashed the over. We should get that pretty considerably. And, you know, great value we got in Beal there. And without Kyle Kuzma, I'm expecting Denny Avdija to start in his place. He's been playing very well. Obviously, he plays into the strength of the Utah defense, which is their perimeter defense. But the minutes should be there. He's only $3,400. $3,500. I think he's very, very safe because he's also been getting a lot of run as the backup 5 whenever they are behind. We could see a similar situation here against the Utah Jazz because they are 6.5 point favorites, are dogs now, but it's probably going to widen even more than that. Kuzma's out, so it's probably going to end up being like 7 or 7.5. So if they're falling behind, we're probably going to see a ton of Deni Avdija at the 4 especially, but as well as at the 5, really bombing from 3. And if he's on, $3,400 for Deni Avdija is probably a bit too cheap. Move over to the Sacramento Kings versus the Cleveland Cavaliers at 223 over under. The Cavaliers are currently 6.5 point favorites. The Kings are going to be without Richaun Holmes. Without Richaun Holmes last game, Alex Len started in his place but played just 13 minutes. Tristan Thompson played 20.5 minutes, while Marvin Bagley played the rest and closed at the 5 and played a total of 27 minutes. Now they get a matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have a jumbo front court with, pretty much like 3 guys that could play center between Larry Markkinen, Jared Allen, and I'm blanking right now, and Evan Mobley, of course. So a very, very big front court for them. So maybe we see a couple extra minutes from guys like Alex Len and Tristan Thompson. But like we saw last game, it's not easy to trust any of these Sacramento Kings guys outside of De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, who have the most secure minutes by far. Bagley could end up closing this game out. $3,700 is probably a bit too cheap for him. And then Terrence Davis, I keep talking about him every time that he is on the slate, but he started last game, which I was pretty skeptical that would even happen, but he ended up starting, pieced together another very, very good offensive game, but only saw 22 minutes of action. So he's going to be extremely chalky, but I think he is a lot more volatile than people believe, especially with what the ownership indicates. So, in tournaments, I think he's a really, really good fade. In cash games, you might go ahead and play him. As of right now, things can definitely change, but a very extremely volatile player here. Tyrese Halliburton at $5,800 I think is entirely too cheap. Over the last few games, De'Aaron Fox's drives to the rack has actually been up significantly. And the potential assist for Tyrese Halliburton has also been on the rise. So the roles are kind of reversing right here, where De'Aaron Fox is taking more of an offensive role and Halliburton's taking on a more facilitating role. And like I mentioned earlier, Fox and Halliburton are really the only 2 players on this team that have secure minutes. They have a new interim coach in Alvin Gentry, and they're kind of just messing around with things right now, getting everybody involved and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But Fox and Halliburton should be the constant in this. But the Cavaliers, they have pretty damn good rim protection. They've been one of the better defending teams in the entire NBA. They have really good rim protection, but De'Aaron Fox's, like I said, his drives per game have been up pretty considerably, 17.7 per game on the year, which is 7th in the league. But overall, from the Sacramento side, I don't mind Terrence Davis and Tyrese Halliburton and Bagley as well. Terrence Davis and Bagley, more secondary options for me. Tyrese Halliburton is fine in cash games and tournaments for me, but not getting too much from the Sacramento side. On the Cleveland Cavaliers side, it's quite the opposite. They are going to be without Colin Sexton, a massive, massive pace-up spot. Kings have been one of the fastest teams over the last 2 weeks. So with there being a massive pace-up spot, it's going to be more possessions, which equals more fantasy points for the Cleveland Cavaliers here. The Kings allow the most points in the paint in the entire NBA. Also allow a league-high 29.6 offensive rebound percentage. So a ton of putbacks. They get murdered in the pick and roll, and a ton of paints in the points. Or points in the paint. So Jared Allen is in an absolute dream spot here at $8,300. I'm probably locking him into a ton of my lineups with Nikola Jokic, which we'll get to later on. But $8,300 Jared Allen, I think he's going to go significantly lower owned. I've touted him only a few times this year. The first time was against the Washington Wizards, where he put up 53.25. The last time was yesterday against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where he put up 44 fantasy points, but lost out on minutes due to blowout, where he would have likely put up mid-50s fantasy points. I think in this matchup, he absolutely murders him. Over on PrizePicks, I love the over Jared Allen right now. Unfortunately, like yesterday, my 2 favorite plays are from the same team, so we're gonna have to mix and match it. But Jared Allen is one of them at 38 fantasy points right here. I love the over, and the other is going to be Darius Garland over 33 fantasy points. And like I mentioned earlier, with this Kings defense, they allow the most points in the paint. And Darius Garland averages 15.2 drives to the rim per game. He has up to a 26.6% usage rating without Colin Sexton on the court so far this year. He's taking a big leap forward in his second year. Don't like him nearly as much at this price point on DraftKings. Much better play on FanDuel, but much better play over on PrizePicks. So as of right now, you could pair Darius Garland with Jared Allen, and I'll give you a few other plays as we move on, but I like the over on their fantasy points. If you guys want to tail me over here, did they just take Darius? Okay, no, he's still there. So they took somebody else off. If you guys want to tail me over here on PrizePicks, give my plays away for free, so you guys can just do that and tail me. All you have to do is use code Taylor, Taylor, when signing up and depositing for a 100% match bonus up to $100. And then Ricky Rubio at $5,200 without Sexton on the court this year. He has averaged 1.07 fantasy points per minute. He's playing about 30 minutes per game. In competitive games, which this game is only a 6.5 point spread, so it should stay close enough where he gets his full complement of minutes. He is priced down to $5,200. That is entirely too cheap for him. I think he's one of the best point per dollar plays on the entire slate. Move on to the Houston Rockets versus the Memphis Grizzlies, a 220.5 over under. The Grizzlies are currently 8-point favorites. The Rockets are going to be without John Wall, Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Daniel House, and Usman Garuba. The Grizzlies are a bottom 10 defense so far this year, but really good at defending the paint. Allow the 7th most threes per game. So you don't want to attack the interior of this Memphis Grizzlies team. You want to attack the perimeter, which is exactly what we saw yesterday with the Houston Rockets against the Milwaukee Bucks. They really gave them struggles because they play defense in a similar way the Bucks do, where they are very tough in the paint and they sell out to defend the paint, but they allow a ton of three-pointer opportunities. From the Houston Rockets, you know, I'm fully expecting Armani Brooks to grab the start again here. I know they are facing two centers with Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr., so Daniel Tice technically could start, but if they start Christian Wood at the 5, they could just put him on Jaren Jackson Jr., and then they can hide Jayshawn Tate on Steven Adams, because Steven Adams doesn't garner any usage at all, so they could put an undersized guy on him. Just because he's really not going to beat him up offensively. May get outbeat due to rebounding, but having Armani Brooks out there to help attack the weakness of this Memphis defense is very, very strong. I think it's a sharp play from them. So Garrison Matthews and Armani Brooks both went off yesterday at very low ownership, just because they were unloading from 3, and I think we see a similar situation here. These are the only two guys from the Houston Rockets that I'm considering. Love Garrison Matthews, love Armani Brooks. I think they're both very, very good plays here. Move over to the Memphis Grizzlies. They are going to be without John Morant, Sam Merrill, Brandon Clark, and Zaire Williams. Dillon Brooks was actually ruled out yesterday in this game, but right before I recorded this video, he was ruled in. He was in the health and safety protocols. So apparently he passed it, so he should be good to go here. So once we got that news over on PrizePicks, we took the under on D'Anthony Melton. He was at about 29.5 fantasy points, but he's not nearly as good of a play with Dillon Brooks now healthy. And really, a bunch of these guys take hits where I'm not really considering all that much from them now that Dillon Brooks is back. I think Dillon Brooks, Tyus Jones are fine plays, but really not considering all that much. Steven Adams has been playing a lot more minutes now. You know, it is a really, really good spot for them. The Rockets are first in pace, so a ton of extra possessions for the Grizzlies here. They also allow the 9th most three-pointers per game, the Houston Rockets do. So guys like Desmond Bane and Dillon Brooks stand to benefit from that. So I don't mind them. It's just a tougher spot. I'm definitely gonna have to dig in a bit deeper after I post this video and before my live stream, because I did just get that news like literally right before I started recording, and I broke this game down earlier in my game notes as if Dillon Brooks was out, because he was originally supposed to be out, but apparently he passed the health and safety protocols. Move over to the Chicago Bulls versus the Miami Heat at 211 over under. The Heat are currently 1-point favorites. The Bulls are going to be without DeMar DeRozan, Javonte Green, Derrick Jones Jr., Kobe White, Patrick Williams, Matt Thomas, and Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso is questionable in this game. He has missed the last couple, and it's been a mess with these role players. They did just sign Stanley Johnson and Alfonso McKinney, so both those guys are going to be available today, which really just muddles the situation of the role players, not really considering anybody there. The Heat allowed the least amount of points in the paint, which is not good for Nikola Vucevic. Obviously, there is no Bam Adebayo, but they are still very good in the paint, still great in the paint. I will say that, even with Dwayne Dedmon over Bam Adebayo. So, not really wanting to attack the paint. So you want to attack these 3-point shooters. And as of right now, the 2 3-point shooters they have is Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball actually been much more efficient this year from 3. Every year he improves on his 3-point shooting and his true shooting percentage overall. So Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, probably the only 2 guys that I'm considering from the Chicago side. Over here on Prize Picks, I do like the Lonzo Ball over fantasy points. If I can find him, I believe it was that like 34 fantasy points. Yeah, so there's no DeMar DeRozan. His minutes are up significantly, and if his 3 ball starts falling, I mean, he can murder this projection. So I like the over on 34 fantasy points on Lonzo Ball as well. Move over to the Miami Heat side. They're going to be without Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Victor Oladipo, and Markieff Morris. The Heat have had matchups recently where they were able to go small, but against Nikola Vucevic and the Chicago Bulls, they're probably going to have to run Dwayne Dedmon as much as they possibly can until he gets injured, until he gets into foul trouble, until the game blows out. I mean, there's always been situations why Dedmon doesn't get his minutes, but in this matchup, he should, in a normal situation, play 32 minutes in this game. He's only $4,500. He's well over a fantasy point per minute player. And like I said, they don't really have the opportunity to go small here. I think his minutes are going to be a lot higher in this matchup. We saw it against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He played 31 minutes, even in a blowout. So when they were playing true big. So I like him quite a bit. I think he's one of the better plays on the slate. I think the best value play on the slate right now is going to be Caleb Martin at $3,500. Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, and PJ Tucker probably have the most secure minutes on this team. But it is very, very volatile. We even saw Tyler Hero last game get benched down the stretch in a competitive game for guys like Gabe Vincent and Max Strus off the bench and KZ Okpala. So, outside of Kyle Lowry, and Caleb Martin for the most part, I think these minutes are very, very hard to predict. I think Caleb Martin at $3,500, one of the better value plays on the slate. Move on to the Golden State Warriors versus the Philadelphia 76ers at 212.5 over under. The Warriors are currently 3-point favorites. The Warriors are going to be without James Wiseman, Klay Thompson, and then Andre Iguodala is questionable. Not really considering Steph Curry here. I have there's a clear spin up option on this slate, and that's Nikola Jokic. So Steph Curry more of a tournament option for me. I think Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole are probably too cheap right now. They're prices are suppressed because the Warriors are involved in so many blowouts that they almost never get their full complement of minutes. But with this game currently having a spread of only 3 points, Philly is at home, and they are a lot healthier right now. Everybody outside of Ben Simmons is back. I think Wiggins and Jordan Poole set up in a pretty good spot at 57.61. They're fine cash game plays, more of secondary options for me personally. On the Philadelphia 76ers side, Ben Simmons is out. The Warriors have the top defensive rated team in the league, second least amount of points allowed in the paint. So not very good for Joel Embiid. They are very, very good at limiting opposing bigs. And so you want to attack people outside of their bigs, and I just really have no interest in anybody else on this team. This game as a whole, I'm probably avoiding for the most part. Move on to the Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs at 219 over under. The Nuggets are currently 1-point favorites. The Nuggets are going to be without Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Austin Rivers, and PJ Dozier. Nikola Jokic is the clear best spend up option in my opinion. He's been great since the beginning of last year with no Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. But if you just want to look at this year without Michael Porter Jr. on the court, in 437 minutes, he has a 34% usage rating, 23.6 total rebound percentage, 41.1 assist percentage, while averaging 1.82 fantasy points per minute. They're playing him as many minutes as they possibly can. We did just see this same matchup against the Spurs, which was the second leg of a back-to-back, and he still played 35 minutes and put up 63.75 fantasy points. I think he absolutely slaughters them yet again. He is the clear spend-up option on this entire slate. Probably just want to get in Nikola Jokic into your lineup and then worry about everything else afterwards. Monty Morris is $5,600 now. Not as good of a play on here as he is on Prize Picks, where I'm going to pair him with Darius Garland and Jared Allen. But without Austin Rivers and PJ Dozier, his minutes have been much more secure, playing low to mid 30s minutes nearly every game. His role has taken an uptick as well, where he's shooting a bit more. So I like the over on Monty Morris. Fantasy points at 23 fantasy points, so you could pair him with Darius Garland or Jared Allen, or both of those guys, and get a 3 pick for a possible 5x. If you guys want to throw in Lonzo Ball as well, there's 4 picks for you guys. I like the over on their fantasy points. If all 4 of those get correct, you will 10x your money. Remember, use code Taylor, TAYLOR, when signing up and depositing for a 100% match bonus up to $100. So you guys can get a bonus $100, throw that in on that 4 pick. If you win that, you win $1,000. So $1,000 off 100 seems like a pretty damn good deal to me. Move on to the San Antonio Spurs. They are dealing with no injuries right now. Kellen Johnson's on the injury report. That's probable, but looks like he is going to give it a go here. The Nuggets allow the 4th most points in the paint, so Jakob Poeltl is in a pretty damn good spot right here. He was successful in the minutes he was given last game. He ran into some foul trouble where his minutes were cut back by like 3 or 4, where he would have played about 34 minutes, which if he can avoid foul trouble, you know, he's probably going to play about 34 minutes, is well over a fantasy point per minute player. Gets a good matchup against a team that allows a bunch of points in the paint. He's still only 6,600. I like his over 31 fantasy points right now too. I think this is too low as well. So there's a lot of good plays that I'm leaning. You can kind of mix and match those 5 or 6 players that I mentioned, and I think you'll do pretty damn well over on Prize Picks tonight. So I like Jakob Poeltl, and then DeJounte Murray in the same vein. He's averaging 15.5 drives per game. His potential assists per game is through the roof right now. So I think he's still probably a bit underpriced at 9.9K. You know, he has been the beacon of consistency this year. So if you're looking for a safe spend up option, you could do a lot worse than DeJounte Murray. But I will be live streaming at 5 p.m. Central Time. Appreciate you guys being here. Best of luck tonight. And until next time, peace.